Hi boys and girls. Today we're going to review on how we estimate decimal quotients as seen in lesson 7-2. So I have a decimal equation up and it's 0.37 divided by 0.65. And first thing I'm going to do is we're going to write down our 4 steps. We created 4 steps just to remember. If you follow them, you should make your division pretty simple. So our first step, I'm going to write down just a little ways so we have room to work. But if you want to also write this down in your notebook, and then you can always refer to it. We should already have it in our math notebooks that we've created, but if you need to make it again. Our first step is we want to round our divisor. So I'm going to round my divisor. When I have 0.37 divided by 0.65, this is my dividend, this is my divisor, the number I'm dividing by. So we're going to round that to the largest value. Well, the largest number or digit with a value is the 6 in the 10th place. So remember, when we round a decimal, we're going to look at 0.6, and a trick I've always done is going, okay, my first answer can either be, it could round to 0.6 since that's what I've underlined, or to 7/10 or 0.7. To find out which one, we look at the place value next to it, and it is a 5. And remember, since it's a 5, it's already halfway in between the 0.6 and 0.7, so we are going to round to 0.7. Our second step is going to be, we are going to make our dividend a compatible number. I'm going to go ahead and hit pause real quick so I can write it without you seeing my hand. Okay, so I've written down make dividend a compatible number. What we mean by that is, here's my dividend 0.37. So I'm going to look at the number 37, and I want to make it compatible with the number 7, which I've already estimated into my divisor. So I asked myself, is 37 a multiple of 7? And it's not. When I think of the multiples of 7, I can get 35 or 42. And 37 comes right in between the two. So when I make it a compatible number, I want to make it the one the closest to the multiple of 7. So 35 is closer to 37 than 42. So I'm going to make 0.37 0.35. Once again, it's because I looked at the multiples of 7 and where did 37 fit in between. Okay, we're going to write down step 3. Once again, I'm going to pause and write it down. Alright, step 3 was to divide, and we're going to ignore the decimal places. Because we have it set up this way and we're in a small number, I can solve it just left and right instead of doing the standard algorithm. Now, this is what we estimate, because we should be able to do this in our head. When I look at 35, I'm going to underline what I'm dividing, by 7 equals. Well, what is 35 divided by 7? We know it comes out equal because we made sure to change our dividend into a multiple that 7 goes into. That's why step 2 is so important in making it a compatible number. So once again, 35 divided by 7 is 5. And I'm going to put my decimal right behind it right away. Alright, I'm going to write down step 4. Okay, our step 4 is to place the decimal in the quotient, which is here. In order to do that, I'm going to have to look at the place values after a decimal in both my dividend and my divisor. Sounds complicated, but it's very easy. I'm going to look at 0.35. And here's my decimal. How many place values came after my decimal? Well, there's the 10th and the 100th. So 2. So I'm going to write down a 2 right here. I'm going to go down to my 0.7 there's my decimal, and the 10th, only one place value. Now, the next thing is I'm going to say between the 2 and the 1, which number is bigger? Obviously the 2. So I'm going to draw an arrow this way. Sorry, I paused the video. We had an announcement come over. So once again, I looked at the decimal place values, 2 to 1. So I'm drawing an arrow to the left. I'm going to explain all this in a little bit. So I'm going to go left, and then I'm going to subtract the 2. 2 minus 1 equals 1. So I did this 2 minus 1 and equals 1. And with the left arrow, that means in my quotient, my decimal will jump left 1 place value. We're jumping left because my arrow said left, and 1 because 2 minus 1 is 1. So instead of 5, my answer becomes 5/10 or 0.5. Real quick, an explanation in case you're needing to understand this. The whole reason we can do that is because when I did 35 divided by 7, I was really changing 35 hundredths. It's like I took 35 hundredths times 100 to get it to 35, and then 7/10 times 10 to make it a whole number 7. When you do that, I'm taking my dividend, was 100 times bigger than it was supposed to be, and I divided by something only 10 times as big, which means that my quotient, which would happen to be my 5, the difference between 100 times bigger divided by 10 times bigger was 10 times too big. So I had to compensate and take that decimal back. We'll see another example where the decimal will go the other way. Alright, so I've written a new problem. We have 27 divided by 0.4. I'm going to follow my 4 steps, and if you remember them, I'm going to go ahead and show them here to the side a little bit. And step 1 was to round our divisor. So 0.4 is my divisor, and I'm actually lucky here because the 4 doesn't have to round anywhere. There's no number to the hundredths place. So 0.4 is going to stay just the same as 0.4, or you could even forget about that 0 and just say 0.4. Step 2, if you remember, was to make our dividend a compatible number. So I'm looking at 27, and I'm dividing by 4. So is 27 a multiple of 4? No. So I think, okay, here's 27. If I think about the multiples of 4, I could have 24 and 28. And 27 fell in between 24 and 28. So which one is closest to 27? Well, 28 is. So we're going to change our division problem to 28 divided by 0.4. Step 3, of course, was to divide, ignoring decimals. So 28 divided by 4 is 7. And I want to put my decimal in right away. Step 4 was place the decimal. So there's no decimal in 28, so there's 0. And in 0.4 decimal, 10th, so there's 1. 0 to 1, we're going to go right. And because there wasn't anything here, we don't even have to worry about it. And we just go right 1 time. So I look at my quotient as 7 decimal, and I have to jump to the right. Well, I'm going to annex a 0. Annexing a 0 means adding a 0 in the place value to jump it. And show my jump. My decimal goes after my 0. So our new number is 70. Let's try another one. Let's see. This was actually from your quick check. it was 0.35 divided by 6. Okay, so when we do this one, 4 steps again. Divide by our divisor, or round our divisor. Our divisor is a whole number. It's only one place value, so it stayed the same as 6. Step 2, make our dividend compatible. 35 compared to 6. Well, if 35 is here, it's not a multiple of 6, but 30 is, and 36. So if I try and find which one is closer to 35, I can obviously see it's 36. So I'm going to say 0.36, and that's my new equation. 0.36 divided by 6. We will divide, ignoring decimal. 36 divided by 6 is 6. I'm going to put my decimal there. Now, we are going to count our place values after the decimal. Decimal, tenth, hundredth. 2 numbers, 2 place values. And the number 6, there weren't any. We didn't have a decimal. So compare 2 to 0. We will go left. And because there wasn't anything here, we go left 2 jumps. Come back up to my quotient then. Here's jump number 1. And then once again I have to annex a 0 and jump number 2. And I would get an answer 0.06. Okay, I'm going to do probably one last problem with you, and then I'm going to have you try and do some work by yourself. Ooh, this one looks like a good one. Okay, so we are going to write down 72.24 divided by 6.8. Let's follow our steps. Round my divisor to the largest value. Well, here's in the ones, tenth. So the ones is bigger. So 6 can either become a 6 whole or 7 whole. We look at the place value next door. It's an 8. So 6.8 is closer to my 7. We round it up. Now I'm going to make 72.24 my compatible number. Another little trick is if I'm dividing by 1 digit, I only pretty much take in consideration 2 digits when I'm doing this. You have to be careful on the place value. But on this one, I'm not going to care about my decimal because 72.24 is a whole number. So my decimal is very small. I'm just going to look at 72. And 72 is not a multiple of 7, but 70 and 77 are. 72 is closer to 70. Oops, I wrote down 72. Is closer to 70. Now I'm going to divide, ignoring decimals. 70 divided by 7 is 10. And the last step was to count our decimal place values and place our decimal. There were no decimals. So I have my answer of 10. Okay, I'm going to ask that you go ahead and practice these next 3 on your own, and I'll check them for you if you'd like. They're also on your Ed puzzle, so you should be able to go back and check your answers. Number 3 was 49 divided by 0.12. Number 4 was 0.28 divided by 0.52. And number 5 was 0.26 divided by 8.25. Thanks for working so hard. Have a great day.